All right, so today, let's dive straight into cracking the code of how to get your brand out there. Especially if you're a small business and you don't want to spend a ton of money on marketing, right?
Yeah, it's a super common problem. But honestly, I think it's more like a puzzle to solve than like an impossible situation.
Totally. And I think we've got the perfect guide to help us crack this code. This blogwidow.com article from March 9th of this year, 2025, lays out 7 really smart strategies for doing just that. And the first one they talk about is social media marketing.
Right. Well, that's kind of like the must-do these days,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, every small business owner knows they need to be on social media. But the real key here, and the article really stresses this, is consistency and also genuine engagement. It's not just about like posting
Oh,
randomly.
that makes sense. You've got to have a plan. You've got to mean it. Now, this is where it gets interesting, at least for me, because the article mentions micro influencers. And I'll be honest, I'm not really sure what that means. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So think of it like this. Instead of trying to, partner with some huge celebrity who's got millions and millions of followers, you're working with somebody who's maybe got a smaller following, but they're super engaged with a specific niche. So that niche aligns with your brand.
Ah, so it's more targeted.
Exactly.
And it's probably, honestly, more affordable than chasing those big names, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's more authentic, and it's definitely easier on the wallet.
Right, right. Okay, so next up on the list is content marketing, which always sounds a little bit intimidating. It sounds like something that would take hours and hours and hours, but the article actually breaks it down in a way that makes it feel doable.
Yeah, and honestly, it's much simpler than people think. Basically, it's just about creating valuable content that's interesting for your audience. It could be blog posts, how-to videos, even webinars. None of this needs to be a huge production.
So for instance, let's say you're a small business owner who makes, I don't know, pottery or something.
Right.
A simple video showing people how to care for their pottery could be content marketing.
Exactly. Or a blog post with tips for beginners. Or even a webinar teaching a specific pottery technique.
Mm.
It's all about sharing your expertise in a way that helps your audience, and by doing that, they're going to get to know you better, like you more, and hopefully become customers.
Okay, that makes it feel a lot less scary. They also talk about using long tail keywords. I think we all kind of, as people who are online, we hear that term thrown around, but maybe we don't always know what it means. So what are long tail keywords and how can a small business use them?
Okay, so imagine you're a shoe store, right? But you specialize in, let's say, orthopedic shoes. Now, if you try to rank for a broad term like shoes, you're going to be competing with like every shoe store on the internet.
Right, you're going to get lost in the noise.
Exactly.
Mm.
But if you use long tail keywords, these longer, more specific phrases like best shoes for plantar fasciitis or comfortable work shoes for nurses, you're going to attract people who are specifically searching for what you offer. They're much more likely to actually become customers.
Wow, that is such a good tip. See, this is why I love doing these deep dives because you learn these little nuggets of wisdom that you can actually implement, like tomorrow.
Absolutely. And it all ties back to that idea of knowing your audience and giving them what they're looking for.
All right, the next strategy on the list is all about getting out from behind your computer screen and into the community, local events, and sponsorships. What do you think are the key things to keep in mind when it comes to using this strategy effectively?
Well, I think the main thing is you really want to show your customers that you're not just like a faceless brand.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out there in the community, sponsoring a local sports team, maybe having a booth at a community fair, all those things really help to build that personal connection. It shows you care about the community.
So let's say for our listeners out there, just to make it really concrete, if you are a bakery, what's an example of a local event that you could participate in?
Oh, it's easy. A farmer's market, for sure. You could set up a little booth, offer some free samples, maybe even do a little demonstration on how you decorate your cupcakes or something.
Perfect. Or if you're running a kids' clothing store, maybe you could sponsor a family fun run.
Exactly. Get those little ones decked out in your awesome clothes. It's all about being where your target audience already is and really showing that you're part of their world. All right, number 4 on the list is email marketing. I think when a lot of people hear that phrase, they think, oh, that's boring, that's so old school. But the article makes a really strong case for why email is still incredibly relevant.
It is. I mean, I know I personally still get a lot of value from emails that I've signed up for. So what's the secret to making email marketing work in today's world?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that email gives you a direct line to people who've already shown some interest in what you do. They've signed up for your list, which means they want to hear from you. It's like having a private conversation with your most engaged customers.
Okay, that's a good way to think about it.
Huh.
And I know they mention this term lead magnet a lot. I've heard this before, but I always get a little confused. Can you break it down for us? What exactly is a lead magnet and how does it work?
Okay. A lead magnet is basically just a valuable freebie that you offer in exchange for someone's email address. It could be an ebook, a discount code, a checklist, a template, anything that your audience would find useful and that would make them want to join your list.
Okay, so let's go back to the clothing store. If I have an online clothing store, maybe I offer a free style guide, like the ultimate guide to spring fashion.
Exactly. And in exchange for that free guide, they give you their email address. It's a win-win. They get something valuable,
Hmm.
and you get to add them to your email list.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light here. Now, strategy number 5 on the list is Google My Business and local SEO. Ugh, these always sound so technical and scary. But the article says they are essential for any small business, especially one that relies on local customers.
It doesn't have to be scary, though. Google My Business, or GMB, is basically like your online storefront. It's what shows up when someone searches for you on Google Maps or does a Near Me search.
Okay, so it's how people find your location, your hours, your website, all that essential information. It's like the digital version of your shop window.
Exactly. And you know what's really interesting? One thing that often gets overlooked is customer reviews.
Oh, tell me about it. I am so guilty of reading every single review before I try a new restaurant or anything, really.
Right. I mean, we all do it. Those little gold stars can really make or break a potential customer's decision. So encourage your happy customers to leave reviews on your GMB profile, like free advertising.
But how do you encourage people to leave reviews without being, super pushy? I always feel weird asking for reviews.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. The key is to be authentic. Just genuinely say something like, hey, we really appreciate your business. If you enjoyed your experience, we'd love it if you could leave a review on Google. No pressure, just a simple request.
Right, right. I like that much better than those leave a review, get a free donut kind of deals. I always feel like those are a little bit manipulative.
I totally agree. Keep it genuine, keep it honest. People can tell when you're being sincere. All right, strategy number 6, the one that often makes people a little nervous, is targeted social media ads.
Yeah, I get a little nervous with these too. You always hear those horror stories about people spending a fortune on ads and not getting any results. So, how do we make sure we're using these ads wisely and not just throwing money away?
Okay, so the key here, and the article really stresses this, is targeting. Done right, these ads can be super focused and surprisingly affordable because, you're not just like blasting your ad out to everyone on the planet. You're actually reaching the specific people who are most likely to be interested in what you offer.
So, instead of just like throwing my ad out there and hoping that somebody sees it, I can actually tailor it to people who live in my city, who are interested in whatever it is that I'm selling, and maybe even people who follow similar businesses to mine.
You got it. You can get super specific with the demographics, the interests, the behaviors, you name it. And the article also has this great tip about retargeting. So let's say, for example, someone visits your website, but they don't buy anything.
Right. They put something in their cart and then they get distracted, or maybe they're just not quite ready to commit.
Exactly.
Mm.
Retargeting allows you to basically show them ads for the specific products that they were looking at. So it's like a gentle reminder. Hey, remember this awesome thing you were checking out? It's still here waiting for you. And surprisingly, it works really well.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these ads can be really powerful when you use them strategically. All right, last but not least, strategy number 7 is joining forces with other businesses. This one is all about collaboration, not competition. The article specifically mentions doing joint promotions and bundle deals. What are some other ways that small businesses can work together to expand their reach?
Oh, there are tons of creative ways to do this. I mean, think about cross-promotion on social media. You can shout each other out, share each other's content, run contests together. It's all about tapping into each other's audiences and expanding your reach without spending a fortune.
Okay, so for our listener out there, let's just make this really concrete. If you are, say, a bakery, maybe you team up with a local coffee shop and do a special coffee and cake deal.
Perfect. Or maybe, you sell handmade jewelry and you partner with a local clothing boutique for a pop-up shop event.
Right. And you're both exposed to a whole new audience. I love it. Okay, so that wraps up part one of our brand awareness deep dive. We've covered 7 incredibly valuable strategies. Anything you want to leave our listeners with before we jump into part two?
Yeah, I would just say, remember, you don't have to implement all of these at once. Choose one that really resonates with you and your business and commit to giving it a try this week. Small steps, big results.
I love that. So simple, but so true. We'll be back soon to unpack a few of these strategies in more detail. See you in part two.
See you then.
Welcome back to our deep dive on affordable brand awareness. So in the last part, we laid out 7 key strategies from that blogwidow.com article.
Yeah, we threw a lot of information at you, but now I think it's time to, actually roll up our sleeves and get a little more tactical.
Well, I like it, getting down to business. Let's start with content marketing. I think that's the one that tends to make people feel kind of overwhelmed, But I think the article gives some really good, actionable tips. So they talked about blogging, how-to videos, webinars. What do you think are the pros and cons of each of those approaches?
Well, I think it's really interesting that they each kind of tap into a different learning style.
Yeah.
So some people love to read blog posts, others, they're more visual learners and they're drawn to videos. And then some folks, they really thrive on that live interactive kind of environment, like a webinar. So it's all about knowing your audience and what they respond to. You wouldn't necessarily recommend all 3 for every single business, would you?
No, definitely not. I mean, for me personally, I love a good blog post, but I will admit that I rarely watch webinars. So I totally get that it's about knowing who you're talking to. And, you don't have to be a master of all trades either. Like, if writing comes naturally to you, then maybe blogging is your jam. Or if you're more comfortable on camera, go for the videos. Play to your strengths, right?
Exactly. And honestly, there are so many tools out there now that make it easier than ever to create great content. You don't need a fancy studio or a film crew. You can just use your phone or a simple webcam to get started.
Okay, that's reassuring, because sometimes it feels like you need to be this big fancy production company to create any kind of decent video. Now, the article also talks about using long-tail keywords in your content. We touched on this briefly in the last part, but I think it's worth diving a little deeper. Can you give us a real-world example of how a small business might use long-tail keywords effectively?
Sure. So let's say you're that bakery we talked about earlier, and you specialize in custom cakes, right?
Right.
Instead of just trying to rank for a general term like cake, which is super competitive, you'd want to target phrases like custom birthday cakes your city, or vegan wedding cake designs.
Oh, I see.
So those are those longer, more specific phrases that people actually type into Google when they're looking for something really particular.
Right, so it's about getting in front of those people who are already searching for what you have to offer, rather than hoping they'll just stumble upon your website randomly.
Exactly. It's about meeting your customers where they are. All right, let's switch gears to local events and sponsorships. Now, we talked about how this is all about building that face-to-face connection with your community, but I think some business owners might feel like, okay, great, but where do I even begin?
Right. It's a bit like, how do you actually put this into practice? It can feel a little overwhelming.
Well, the first step is to think about your ideal customer, right? Like, where do they hang out? What are they interested in? What kind of events would they naturally be drawn to?
So for instance, if I own a pet supply store, maybe I could sponsor a local dog adoption event or have a booth at a pet-friendly festival.
Exactly. Or if you're a children's clothing boutique, maybe you partner with a local library for a storytime event or donate some outfits for a school fundraiser. The possibilities are kind of endless.
Right. And it's all about aligning yourself with events that really resonate with your brand. And it doesn't have to be this huge, expensive thing either, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, even small gestures can go a long way. It's about showing up and being a part of your community. People remember that.
Okay. That makes it feel a lot less intimidating.
Hmm.
All right. Let's dive into email marketing. We already talked about the power of lead magnets, but the article also mentions segmenting your email list and using automation. Can you break those down for us a little bit? Why are those so important?
Sure. So imagine you're sending the exact same email to everyone on your list. No matter what their interests are, their purchase history, nothing. Some people are probably going to be like, what is this? Why am I getting this? It's not even relevant to me. And others might feel overwhelmed by all the information,
Right. They're just going to hit delete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where segmentation comes in. Basically, it's just dividing your email list into smaller groups based on shared characteristics. It could be demographics like age or location, or it could be based on their past purchases, their interests, or whatever makes sense for your business. So then, instead of sending a generic email blast to everyone, you can tailor your messages to each group.
So if I'm that online clothing store, maybe I have a segment for people who've bought dresses in the past and another segment for people who are more into shoes.
Right. Exactly. So then, instead of sending everyone a generic new arrivals email, you can send a targeted email about new dresses to the dress lovers and a separate email about the new shoe styles to the shoe enthusiasts. Much more likely to get their attention.
Okay, that makes total sense. And what about automation? I feel like that's one of those words that gets thrown around a lot, but I'm not always sure what it actually means in practice.
So email automation is basically like having a virtual assistant who sends personalized emails on your behalf, even while you're sleeping. It's pretty amazing. You can set up these pre-written emails that are triggered by specific actions. So for example, let's say someone signs up for your email list.
Right.
You can have an automated welcome email that instantly goes out, thanking them for joining, maybe offering them a special discount code for first-time shoppers. Makes a good impression.
Oh, I love that. And what about after someone makes a purchase?
Perfect example. You can set up an automated email to go out a few days later, thanking them for their order and maybe suggesting some complimentary products based on what they bought. Like, hey, since you bought this shirt, you might also love these pants or this jacket. It just kind of keeps that relationship going, keeps your brand on their mind.
Right, right. It's that personal touch that people really appreciate. Okay, I can definitely see how automation can be a huge time saver and make your email marketing way more effective. Now, let's move on to Google My Business, or GMB, as the cool kids call it. The article really stresses that this is a must-do for any local business, but it can feel a little overwhelming. Like, where do you even begin?
I know it can sound intimidating, but it's actually simpler than you think. The first step is to claim your GMB profile. This is completely free, by the way, and you can do it right through Google. Once you've claimed it, just make sure you fill out all the information, make it as accurate and complete as possible.
So things like your business name, address, phone number, website, hours of operation, all the basic details.
Exactly. And don't forget to add photos, photos of your business, both inside and out. Think of it as creating a visual representation of your brand, right? People want to see what you're all about.
It's like the digital storefront we were talking about earlier. It's how you make that first impression online. And then, of course, the article also talks a lot about customer reviews, which, we already know how important those are. But why are they especially important for your GMB listing?
Well, think about it. When you're searching for, I don't know, a new restaurant or a shop or whatever, what's one of the first things you look at?
The reviews. I want to see what other people are saying. I want to know if it's worth my time and money.
Exactly. So those positive reviews act as what we call social proof. They build trust and credibility, and they actually influence your ranking in the local search results. So encourage those happy customers to leave reviews on your GMB profile. It's literally free advertising.
And again, it's about being authentic, right? Just, politely ask. No need to bribe them with free stuff or anything.
No, definitely not. Just keep it genuine, and people will respond to that. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, targeted social media ads. This one makes a lot of small business owners nervous. And I get it. There's always that fear that you're going to spend a bunch of money and get no results. So how do we make sure we're using these ads wisely and not just throwing money away?
Yeah, I think we've all seen those ads that are just completely irrelevant, right? Like, why am I seeing an ad for, diapers when I don't even have kids? It's like, come on.
Right, exactly. So the key here, and the article really stresses this, is targeting. Done right, these ads can be incredibly focused and surprisingly affordable, because you're not just blasting your ad out to everyone on planet Earth. You're actually choosing who sees it.
Okay, so I can actually tailor my ad to, let's say, people who live within a certain radius of my business, who are interested in the kinds of products or services that I offer, and maybe even people who follow similar businesses to mine, right?
Absolutely. You can get super specific with your targeting. And one of the coolest tools, and the article mentions this, is retargeting. So let's say someone visits your website, they browse a few products, but they don't buy anything.
Right, they get distracted, or maybe they decide to think about it. Happens all the time.
So with retargeting, you can actually show them ads for those specific products that they were looking at as they're browsing other websites. So it's like this gentle little reminder, hey, remember that awesome thing you were checking out? It's still here waiting for you. And it's surprisingly effective.
Oh, I see. So it's like a little nudge, a little reminder. I like it. Okay, I'm starting to see the light here. Targeted ads don't have to be scary. All right, last but not least on our list of strategies, joining forces with other businesses. I love the whole collaborative spirit behind this one. It's not about competition, it's about working together. The article mentions joint promotions, bundle deals. What are some other concrete examples of how businesses can team up to expand their reach?
Well, like you said, it's all about getting creative and thinking outside the box. So cross-promotion on social media is a big one. Like, imagine two businesses that kind of complement each other, like a yoga studio and a health food store. They could do a joint giveaway on Instagram, where people have to follow both accounts to enter.
Right, and then they're exposed to both brands. That's
Yeah.
awesome, and it costs basically nothing.
Exactly. Or maybe they could offer a package deal,
Yeah.
like a month of unlimited yoga classes plus a discount on healthy snacks and supplements. Everyone wins.
Okay, my brain is overflowing with ideas. I love it. Before we wrap up part 2, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are feeling inspired to actually take action on these strategies?
I would just say start small, experiment, and don't be afraid to try new things. Building brand awareness, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Be patient, be consistent, and most importantly, have fun with it. Because if you're not enjoying it, no one else will.
I love that. So true. All right. We'll be back soon with part 3, where we'll share some final thoughts and help you choose the best strategies for your own unique business. Stay tuned. Okay, so welcome back for the grand finale of our brand awareness deep dive.
We've covered so much ground. It's kind of amazing. We talked about social media, content marketing, that super important email strategy, making sure you show up on Google.
It's a lot. So now it's time to answer that big question. What's the one thing our listeners should really focus on after listening to all this?
Don't try and do it all at once, honestly. Just pick one strategy from this whole deep dive that really spoke to you, something that feels exciting and doable, and then try it this week. Like literally this week, make it happen.
I love that. Just one thing. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just pick one and go for it.
Exactly. If those content marketing tips we talked about got you all fired up, maybe this is the week you finally start that blog or record that how-to video you've been thinking about. Just dive in.
Or maybe the local events thing sparks something. Go check out what's happening in your community. See if there's an event where you could get involved.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone. Think about those collaborations, like maybe reach out to a business that complements yours and see if you can do a joint promotion. Or maybe connect with a micro-influencer. Think outside that traditional advertising box, right?
Right. Get creative. It's supposed to be fun.
Here's one last thing to really think about. Building brand awareness, it's not like you just do it once and you're done.
Yeah.
It's not like checking something off a to-do list. It's really more like an ongoing journey.
It's about showing up consistently, experimenting, trying different things, and just always learning as you go.
Yeah, and when you really commit to it, the results can be huge. You're not just getting your name out there. You're building trust and loyalty. You're creating a real connection with your audience.
And that's what makes the difference between a good business and a truly great business, wouldn't you say?
100%. Those genuine connections, they're what turn your customers into fans. And then those fans turn into people who tell all their friends about you. And that is marketing gold.
Couldn't said it better myself. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you the inspiration and the knowledge you need to really level up your brand awareness.
Every time you interact with someone, it's a chance to make an impression. So make it count. And we really want to hear from you. What strategies are you going to try? What questions do you have? Share them with us. Let's keep this conversation going.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep shining.